Exposure. Our brains ache in the merciless iced east winds that knife us. Wearied, we keep awake because the night is silent. Low, drooping flares confuse our memory of the assailant. Worried by silence, sentries whisper, curious, nervous, but nothing happens. Watching, we hear the mad gusts tugging on the wire like twitching agonies of men among its brambles. Northward, incessantly, the flickering gunnery rumbles, far off like a dull rumour of some other war. What are we doing here? The poignant misery of dawn begins to grow. We only know war lasts. Rain soaks, and clouds sag stormy. Dawn massing in the east, her melancholy army attacks once more in shivering ranks of grey, but nothing happens. Sudden successive flights of bullets streak the silence, less deadly than the air that shudders black with snow. With sidelong flowing flakes that flock, pause and renew, we watch them wandering up and down the wind's nonchalance, but nothing happens. Pale flakes with fingering stealth come feeling for our faces. We cringe in holes back on forgotten dreams and stare, snow-dazed, deep into grassier ditches. So we drowse, sun-doze littered with blossom trickling, where the blackbird fusses. Is it that we are dying? Slowly our ghosts drag home, glimpsing sunk fires, glozed with crusted dark red jewels. Crickets jingle there. For hours the innocent mice rejoice. The house is theirs. Shutters and doors all closed. On us the doors are closed. We turn back to our dying. Since we believe not otherwise can kind fires burn, nor ever suns smile true on child or field or fruit. For God's invincible spring our love is made afraid, therefore not loath we lie out here. Therefore we're born, for love of God seems dying. Tonight this frost will fasten on this mud and us, shrivelling many hands and puckering foreheads crisp. The burying party, picks and shovels in shaking grasp, pause over half-known faces. All their eyes are ice, but nothing happens. So the title of this poem being Exposure could indicate multiple themes. The word exposure has multiple definitions. Here it could indicate the vulnerability of the soldiers in the war. It could indicate to us the extreme weather conditions in which they fought. Or it could be exposing the reality of war. All three definitions match this poem quite closely. The first two lines of this poem read, "Our brains ache in the merciless iced east winds that knife us. Wearied we keep awake because the night is silent." This is a shared experience indicated by the collective personal pronoun our in the beginning. They are talking on behalf of other people. They're talking on behalf of the other soldiers whom they fought alongside and against in this war. Not only was it their side that were struggling, both sides in the war, they all struggled from these different issues that they had to endure. So, continuing on with, in the merciless iced east winds that knife us, this is a personification just to emphasise the sheer harsh and violent weather conditions, the threatening of the weather towards them, how these iced winds are almost cutting them, or could actually be cutting them, because their bodies aren't prepared for this. Low drooping flares confuse our memory of the assailant. Worried by silence, sentries whisper, curious, nervous, but nothing happens. This is not only the conflict of war, but the internal turmoil that these soldiers are having to deal with, because they're stuck out here. There is so much going on. And the sibilance here also goes on to highlight the anticipation, the silence, the absolute terror that they are enduring, thinking, well, any moment there could be bombs and guns going off, they've got to fight. But nothing happens is quite a significant line. Even though it only accumulates to 3 words in a phrase to end this stanza. It is continued to be repeated multiple times. It's almost indicative of the useless anticipation, like they're waiting and waiting and waiting just for nothing to occur. So Owen then goes on to say, watching, we hear the mad gusts tugging on the wire, like twitching agonies of men among its brambles. Here there is a simile that indicates that these men are trapped, they can't escape, and that it's almost humans versus nature, and that nature's experiencing pain too. It's not like nature wants the humans to be there. It's not just a war between two groups of humans, it's a war between humanity and nature. Northward, incessantly, the flickering gunnery rumbles, far off like a dull rumour of some other war. What are we doing here? Here there is a biblical reference alongside the rhetorical question, which indicates to us that the soldier is unsure of their purpose. They're experiencing extreme doubt. They're thinking, is this really what I should be doing? It's inevitable to them that they're going to die, and they're just thinking this over, and they're just thinking, is this really what I've amounted to? I've worked so hard to get here, yet this doesn't seem like I should be here. Throughout the poem, there is a semantic field of suffering and conflict and many war-related words that are utilised throughout, just to give it this sense of battle. The poignant misery of dawn begins to grow. We only know war lasts, rain soaks, and clouds sag stormy. Dawn, massing in the east of her melancholy army, attacks once more in ranks of shivering ranks of grey, but nothing happens. Here, by saying that rain soaks and clouds sag stormy, it's saying that there's no protection, that they are exposed. This links directly back to the title, in that they're exposed to this weather. They're not just exposed to the war, they're not just exposed to nature, they're exposed to these terrible weather conditions, in that they have to stay there, they have to deal with this, they've got no choice, they're doing this for their country. And the fact that it's described in that it says, massing in the east her melancholy army. This personification juxtaposes their hope. They have no hope. This army is fighting against them. It's a direct link to the idea that it's human versus nature. And here we see again the repetition of but nothing happens. This is significant. Sudden successive flights of bullets streak the silence, less deadly than the air that shudders black with snow. Here there is sibilance, and the pace changes quite significantly. It goes from just the slow kind of moving through, enduring all of this. It's taking quite a while. They're getting a bit tired and sick and done. But then here it's all of a sudden successive flights of bullets streak the silence. However, this could be a form of hallucination. Like, they're not in regular circumstances, they're struggling, they're having to deal with all this, they've probably got no sleep, they're really ill. And it's not just silence, there is now noise. And this battle may be heard elsewhere. It's so loud and just in the way, and the violence is just everywhere. With sidelong flowing flakes that flock, pause and renew, we watch them wandering up and down the wind's nonchalance, but nothing happens. Pale flakes with fingering stealth come feeling for our faces. Here there is mass alliteration. This then links directly back to the idea that they're at war with nature. They're not just at war with people. It's talking about flowing flakes that flock, the wind's nonchalance, pale flakes with fingering stealth come feeling for our faces. It's them against nature. That nature's relentless. They are experiencing such anxiety of expectation, but it's all just nature. We cringe in holes back on forgotten dreams and stare, snow-dazed, deep into grassier ditches, so we drowse sun-dozed, littered with blossoms trickling, where the blackbird fusses. Is it that we are dying? Here there's a repetitive lifestyle which indicates that the mind may repeat things, and they are trying to stay in their past and present dreams. They don't want to face reality that actually sits right in front of them. Is it that we are dying? They're seeking answers to the purpose. They don't know why they're there anymore. They've given up trying to figure out why it is they're there, and they're just blatantly asking the question. Slowly our ghosts drag home, glimpsing the sunk fires, glows, with crusted dark red jewels, crickets jingle there. There is an assonance of the long sound ooh, which indicates the painful and slow journey in which these soldiers are enduring just to make sure that their country is going to be okay. The crusted dark red jewels, this indicates that fire offers them no warmth. They have got to the point now where they are so cold and so ill that fire and warmth, it doesn't affect them. It looks like jewels, but it's almost precious in a way that is cold. For hours the innocent mice rejoice. The house is theirs, shutters and doors all closed. On us, the doors are closed. Here this indicates a loss of safety and shelter. They've got nowhere to go, nowhere to turn to. Going to war has meant that they lost everything. There is a caesure here, which gives us a division between each line and reflects to us how the men are shut out of their homes and they can't go back. And once they've left and they've been there for so long, they're fighting and fighting and fighting. The people at home are losing hope about where they are and whether they're actually going to make it back, and that it's so difficult for them to believe that these soldiers are going to be able to return. We turn back to our dying. It's almost here as if they're expecting death, like it's their fate and it's the only option, or it's the best option. Like going home may mean that they're going back to nothing, they've got nothing to go back to, and that the best option for them here is death. But not only is that the best option, it's the only option. Since we believe not otherwise can kind fires burn, nor ever sun smile true on child or field or fruit. For God's invincible spring, our love is made afraid. Therefore not loath we lie out here. Therefore we were born, for love of God seems dying. Here it indicates to us that they may be sacrificing themselves in order for life at home to be preserved. They are stuck, destined to remain where they are, destined to remain doing what they're doing. They're losing faith, and their love for God is disappearing. They're struggling to believe that such a divine spirit could put them in this place. Such a good, all-seeing, seeing God in general would put them in this place. They can't seem to believe it. Tonight this frost will fasten on this mud and us, shrivelling many hands and puckering foreheads crisp. The burying party picks and shovels in shaking grasp, pours over half-known faces. All their eyes are ice, but nothing happens. Here there is vivid imagery of the effects of the cold weather on these soldiers. Their hands are shrivelling, their foreheads are puckering and going crisp. They're struggling. Their eyes are ice. This is a metaphor, not only for the eyes of the living, but also for the eyes of the dead. The eyes of the dead are often described as being cold or like ice, but the eyes of the living being described as ice indicates that these living men no longer feel anything. They've lost all of their empathy, their sympathy. They're just stuck in this mundane, repetitive time. This is also a vivid description of how they've been overpowered by nature. They're being frozen in place. Finally, the end line, but nothing happens. This is cyclical. It is the start and the end, and it symbolises that even death, the end of a life, that doesn't change anything.